Right, welcome to the Lonely Carper podcast, episode 13, featuring Colin Hunt, part three. Right, a little warning, this may contain strong language, so you have been warned. Before we start, Colin, I'd just like to do I'll do a little recap. So obviously I'd love people to start watching part one and part two, but obviously we discussed on part one about your health battles, how you've been robbed down at the lake, catching your first £50 carp. So part one was epic, mate. So and like I say, part two, if people obviously need a recap, you dug more into the stories, Lynch Hill, Country Park, and mate, I just want to say credit to yourself, the carp that we talked about, the Black Mirror, the Scar, the Longfish, Cluster, Moonscale, Highback Elite, oh man, and the list goes on, credit to you. So welcome back, mate, it's going to be a pleasure again.
Thank you, mate. But yeah, thanks for having us back on, mate. But yeah, like it was great after those first two, and like I say, the response has been really well and it's been well received and stuff, which was great. But yeah, like while we're sort of back today, that other people were asking for part three and stuff, but and it's great to share some of these stories. But in the time since the second part, a lake that was like quite dear to myself, and probably without that lake's existence, I wouldn't be here today telling any of these stories, let alone just this one. But so yeah, it was a club lake on the fringes of Bristol, between Bristol and Bath, and it was an old estate lake. This lake, mate, I'm not too sure of the is is the 19th century like old estate lake, and I can remember Dick Walker. Well, I don't remember it. People, other older members, made me aware of this back in the early days on there, But Dick Walker had wrote about he wrote in a book called "Drop Me a Line." It was actually called, and he referred to the lake as Lackey's Leap because everything back then was, it was all hush hush because on the bridge, on the lake in itself, there's a really high bridge, and it was believed that some lackey from the manor house had jumped off of there one day and committed suicide, and that's where the Lackey's Leap name come from. But so the lake was like steeped in history, do you know what I mean? But yeah, so like not only had you heard Dick Walker had wrote about it when I spoke about this in part one, but you know you meet people along your way in your path, don't you? That are influential, whether that's in a negative way or a positive way in life. But I remember, and I'll come back to this, and that is an important part of the story. But and I mentioned it in one, but when I was a kid, my dad and my uncle used to fish quite a lot. And but it was like waggler floats fishing for £3 and stuff. My personal best was £5, and that was a giant. The thought of ever catching a £10 carp was just like, well, it's like I don't know if I could ever achieve that, climb that mountain. You know what I mean? But my uncle gave me the old Redmere Pool book, and it was the Len Arbery one, and Kev Clifford. But and like I said, I spent so many hours, mate. It was lucky. We've got a better choice of entertainment now with our phones and stuff, haven't we? But mate, as a kid, I just stared at that book so much and looking at these giants, and obviously the British record, the 51-pounder, Clarissa, caught by Dick Walker himself. So, they're like, and then when I stumble across this lake as a teenager and they say, oh, Dick Walker fished this, it's like, he was like my hero. Like, what? Well, this is before like the Terry Earn thing and whatnot. But so yeah, mate, and I'd gone to holiday lakes and stuff like that as a kid, and I'd call, like I said, I call it my personal best was, I was very proud of it, a £5 common or something it was, and then, like I said, I'm reading this book over and over and over, and that's why I think like I'm still the way I am now with carp fishing, where I fish for like special ones, like because I didn't want to just go, I want to be a carp angler to catch, one day I could catch a 30 or one day a 20 or 40. I used to stare at those pictures of those linears and those big dark like mirrors and those big commons and stuff in that book and think, I want to catch one like that. Like, you know what I mean? And
Yeah, yeah,
it had a name and everything. It was a target. Like people wanted them certain fish. And when you're going to a muddy puddle with 2,000 in, mate, I get it. That's for some people, but for me, mate, it was that specimen hunting, and yeah, so that's the sort of history of that book. My uncle gave me that book. He wasn't an uncle that was very present in my life or anything like that. I hardly ever spoke to him, but he gave me that book, and that was my first taste of heroin, if you like, for it, because I was just like from that point on, mate, I just wanted a one day progress to be like that. And anyway, so I'm fishing all these sort of lakes and stuff as a kid, and you know, then the partying scene comes along, and I was, you know, I played basketball at a very high level and all sorts. Anyway, and then I got really seriously back into my carp fishing again, like sort of in the mid 90s, and this lake had just reopened again, like I said, and they had an original stock in there, of fish that were in there, I believe, since the like 60s, and you know, I sort of stumbled upon there, and then, you know, prior to this lake opening, I was fishing on one of these muddy carp ponds with fish up to like £10, and there was a guy on there, and it was the first time I ever seen someone tie a herring, and I remember being blown away. And the guy's name's Terry Wilkinson, and real well good, you know, really good angler and stuff. And he showed me it with like snake bite hook link and stuff like that. And I could just remember, like, mate, you know, it's like another piece to the puzzle, you know. And then lo and behold, mate, when I started fishing this estate lake, the lake in question is called Hump Street. Like I said, it's an old estate lake of 5 acres, an original stock from like the 60s. And there was a few left still, but they had introduced another load of fish from a lake that was actually situated in Bath of like fast growers, mate. And lo and behold, I met Terry again. Like, this was years later. I seen him on this lake, and he would like tell me, mate. And you know, like, you know, I love telling the story myself. But I would sit down with people like himself, and there were some other very well respected carp anglers in Bristol, like a guy called Kerry Dole, who's a good mate of mine still to today. You know, a guinea called Chrissy Coles and Ian Hunt. And mate, I'd sit there with them as a kid, and they would tell me the stories of like, oh, the beast, or the Warren's fish, or the, you know, the fat grey, or the small lead, or something like that. And mate, I just would, like, you know, when you're maybe outside and you tune yourself into your surroundings, or darkness, or flavors with your eyes shut. I was so tuned into their stories, mate. It was almost like I was there myself. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
like, you know, and all of a sudden there was these fish with names and all this sort of stuff, mate. And I couldn't get enough of it, mate. I just, like, I know all of it. But yeah, I used to punish them, mate. I used to punish those guys. Like, they must have thought, oh shit, here comes that kid again. Like, you know, because I'd sit there and I'd want to know everything. But like, fair play to them, mate. You know, back in those days in the 90s and stuff, um, people were very rude, like very secretive, and you know, like the carp anglers had a bit of a bad reputation, didn't they, as being like secretive and thinking they were better than match anglers and all this sort of stuff. But these lads in question, Paul Eddington and that, he's the maddest character I've probably ever met on a. You can't stop laughing when you're with him. Really good anglers, caught some really big fish out of Brampton Court and stuff. Um, you know, they just shared their information, mate, and I just couldn't get enough of it. Like, you know, they were my dealers, like, as such. You know, I couldn't get enough, like. And so I started fishing there, and I can remember one day, like, Terry, I'm chatting to him, punishing him, like, you know, as I always did, and he's had a bite, mate. And this fish is like just ripping line off, like, you know, and you've got to remember, this is my first experience of like big carp fishing. And he's gone and he's weeding him up, and he said to me, "Go and get the boat, young un." And I'm thinking, well, hey, like, you know, so I've gone and got the rowing boat, put the life jacket on. Me and him's got in the boat, and this fish is towing us around the lake, mate, and he got it in. It was a fish known as the Warrens, and like, it was just unbelievable to be in that like presence of, you know, and see it, and like, you know, it was like the hunter going to get, you know, getting his kill. It was like people talked about these mysterious fish, and one day I'm just stood there and happened to be a part of it, and I net it for him, and he's there on the bank, and you think, this ain't actually that hard to do, I don't think. Like, you know, it's quite achievable. So, but yeah, like, you know, they'll be probably listening to this laughing at that sort of stuff. But yeah, mate. And then I just, you know, I spoke about this in the first one, but like Kerry Dole, he's why he don't work in the bait industry, I'll never know. But what that guy taught me about bait and flavors and essential oils, and, you know, like, we would just talk for hours and hours and hours. And I find it now, like, you know, the transition of like in carp fishing today, like, you know, and I get it, people are very busy with work and money and all sorts of stuff, and they just go, I'm using, I don't know, the krill or cell or vanilla, whatever. And if you ask probably 90% of them, do you know what's in the bait, they probably wouldn't be able to tell you. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, they probably wouldn't even know what one of the base flavors are, or like, let alone any oils or the like hydroslates or the base mixes or whatever. But you know, it's like when you're trying to achieve any goal in life, isn't it? It's all made up of percentages, and you know, it was like not only learning about rigs and you know, about watercraft and stuff like that. You know, bait was obviously a massive part of any puzzle to play in carp fishing. And these guys were like genius. Like Kerry he was a genius. Like, you know what he didn't know about bait. People have probably owned bait companies now. He's probably forgot more than they know. Like, you know,
yeah,
and I get it. You know, back in them days in the 90s, you'd walk in a tackle shop, and the shelves were full of bags of base mix and flavors and oils and acids and stuff, weren't they? And I've talked about this a little bit in the past podcasts and stuff, mate, and that's why I'm so into it still today. Like, I'm massively into it. And but yeah, but also I understand also if people don't want to know that science of it all. But anyway, like I said, I couldn't get enough, and they tell me about waters in Oxford and all whatnot. But so like I started from there, mate, and I said I started rolling my own like baits and using different companies' base mixes that I'd have my own flavor combinations too, and I started catching them original ones. But there weren't many left, mate, if I'm honest. And obviously I'm going to send pictures in for this podcast, but I caught like the original ones, and there was a really old like leany one in there, like the half linear, and I ended up catching that. It died, but then I went off on, and your fishing progresses, doesn't it? And you spread your wings a little bit, and before I know it, I was on horseshoe in the late, in like I don't know, 97, something like that. And I never really went back, but honestly, it was always so special because I always went back there in the winter months, like and I think, whether you're chasing 50 pounders or 40 pounders, and there's a local carp lake with like scraper 20s in or something like that, some people would go, oh, I ain't going out there now because, I don't know, I've caught a 30, but there ain't even a 30 in there or something like that. But I believe it's like going to the gym, mate, or throwing darts or, a golf swing. You're constant, even if you're going there and there's only 20 pounders in the winter, it could be a new flavor combination. It could be a new rig. It could be, I don't know, your casting ability, or just staying in tune with like watercraft and stuff. I don't think it's healthy to go, I want to be a really good angler and go, I'm fishing a pit in Reading and it shuts up shop in September and I'll go back there next May and expect to be on top of your game. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just think because you wouldn't do that if you was a swimming or an athlete and say, well, you didn't, I didn't train hard. You go, no, I'm good at it anyway. Like, it don't work like that, does it? And like my advice is, whether you're fishing for 20 pounders in the winter or, like I said, but because how can you sit on a low stock big, tasting a big carp, knowing everything you're doing is tip top, and you've got confidence in everything when you ain't caught a fish for several months? Like, you know what I mean? And so I would always spend most Saturdays at that lake, in the winter, and the fish had grown by now, like they were upper 20s and stuff like that. So then there was there was ones that were getting new names and stuff like that, and I'll send you a picture now. A mate of mine called Sonny, he caught the lake record at like 42 pound or something it was, and it was a fish called Blush. Well, I remember, mate, all those originals have died, and I haven't been out there for a couple of years, and I've gone out there in the winter, mate, and I've cast over to this bush, had a bite, got it in the net, mate, and everyone's like, oh, that's Blush, and I'm like thinking, who the fuck's Blush? Like, he got that in there for a while, like, oh, that's the like big one and everything, and then they'll be able to zip, like, and I know there's one called this and there's one called that, and and like I said, it was good because I met a lot of good mates on that lake, and older mates that I've already referenced, and a lot of younger mates, like, and I've spoken about them in like Lee Barter, people like that. And we're still good mates now, and we all go in our own directions, and we fish across the country. But what would we do? We'd always fish together on Saturdays and stuff on this local lake in the winter, And we there's some stories, and I'll just add a bit in now because it's going to feed into later. And it's I can remember being out there on Saturday once, and adjacent to this main specimen lake, there was two match event lakes, and we had got word that the carp were getting quite big in there, and this is in the depths of winter now, and lo and behold, me and Bart's have gone over there fishing, and Bart's had a take, and he's playing it, and it's fighting like a big fish, And anyway, he's got it in, mate, and it's a 19 pounder, like, like we're like, Jesus Christ, like giant back then, like this is years ago, and it was a nice one and everything, and we took the pictures and all the rest of it, put it back and all the rest of it, and these fish were growing constantly in these lakes next door as well as they were flying in the specimen lake. But just remember that fish I mentioned, and it comes into the story later on. And but anyway, like I said, we go out there and we fish there on Saturdays, and I'd seen this fish on the bank a couple of times. Actually, I was there when someone first caught it over 20 pounds, and like back in like probably 2001, something like that. And it looked like the North Lake, Yakeley North Lake. They had a fish in it called the Snake years ago, and we had the two scales on his left flank, I think it was. It's his right flank, sorry. And I can remember, like, I'd go out there, mate, and fish it in the winter, and I was always successful on that lake. But that snake, mate, he was a slippery one, like, he avoided me like the plague, like, and and not only did he avoid me, mate, he would always come out when I was there having a walk round or something, as if he was like winding me up, like you know
Yeah.
what I mean. And I can remember one day going out there, and one of my mates, Sea Lion Steve, he was fishing in the mud swim, mate. And lo and behold, Paul Edison's fishing to him next in the winter. They've had bites, mate, and lo and behold, Sea Lions landed this bigger, and he's like 34 pound then or something like that when he had it. It's the snake again, and like I said, mate, you know, I'd always thought, you know, hopefully I'll catch it one day in the winter months, sort of thing. And but I never really put in enough time, like, you know, to campaign to try and catch a big one. It was more, if I was ever going to catch it, mate, it was about repetitively going there over the years, over the winters. In one winter open, he just picks up my bright up bait or something, you know? And, but yeah, anyway, he kept coming out this snake, and he was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And like I said, I'd lost interest in this lake in a sense, like, you know, because, I was fishing for big fish in other venues and stuff like that. And the winters have got milder around there. So where it was that migration back in the day, mate, where you'd have your difficult lakes around the country, and then you migrate onto an easier one in the colder, frosty months, those days are gone, mate, aren't they? It's like flooding, and winters are warm now. So you generally fish on these other venues all year round, like, you know. And but anyway, this year, mate, following on from the second podcast, I caught that 50 pound common, like faster than what I thought I was gonna. I had a ticket for the Roach Pit down in Ringwood, and was really looking forward to that, mate. And I almost, like, you know, you sort of predict like that you're going to be on there for, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years to catch the ones you wanted, and then they had all the fish deaths on there, and I caught a couple like the Roach Pit, mate. But the first signs I was seeing them in the snags and stuff, and they didn't look good at all, like, you know. And then I caught a couple, and they had big sores on them. And before you know it, was shut. That was it, like, you know. And I'd already caught that common. So that ticket was gone. Like I said, the Roach Pit had turned, you know, gone, had tits up. So then I started doing some fishing on the Manor Farm complex in Oxford, and because I didn't have nowhere to go, mate. And you know, like that league, you know, it's got a bit of history and stuff like that. So I just sort of went up there a little bit to find myself again, if you like. And I was like quite successful. First trip I caught like a 25 pound common, and oh god, I can't remember how big it was now, like another mirror. And the very next trip up, mate, I caught one called they call it Black Spot. It's like I think it's a 40 pounder now, but it was like 36 or something. I caught that one, like a real hard fighting one. And one day we was walking around St. John's, mate, and it's a funny story, mate, because I started enjoying it, like, you know. I never really thought that day ticket angling would appeal to me. But yeah, we was walking around St. John's, mate, and this new westerly wind's blowing in. And I'm still up on this mound, like looking across St. John's. And there's you know, like it always is, mate, there's lines and lines and lines of tents in there. And with that, mate, I see these fish start head and shouldering, like on this new westerly that's literally just started blowing. And these fish are just like, they're so close in that the anglers can't actually see them because they're like between the swims. And with that, mate, I walked round to them, and I sort of said, "How's it going, lads?" And that, and they were from Stoke, and they were packing up, and they'd been there a week. And they said, "Oh shit, mate," and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, "Are you going now?" And mate, I'm like still seeing these fish out the corner of my eye, like rolling on the edge of these reeds, like in between their rods, like. And they was like, "Oh yeah, yeah," and I started talking about football and winding them up about Stoke City, and that's, so we're having a laugh, and I'm distracting them a little bit in that. And I said to them, "Lads, like, you know, is it all right if I put a rod out in between you two, like in those reeds?" And they were like, they looked at me like I was nuts, mate. Yeah. Like they'd been there a week, and they went, "Hey, crack on, mate, we're going." And I was like, "Same." So, mate, I pulled my tracksuit bottoms off and stuff, and like got this little fucking bag on the end of this tiny little rig. And I'm still in the reeds, mate. The water's up to my knees. And I'm just thinking, the next time that shows me, I'm just going to lower this on his head. And with that, mate, this big old mirror's just rolled, like, right next to me. And I just lowered the bait down onto his head, mate. Slackened it off. Walked back down, and they're packing away, these kiddies. And this kid's saying, "Oh, have you seen this new uplink material or something someone's bought out?" So with that, I could hear my clutch going. Oh. Master rod, mate. Wow. And it was that big one in there they called a Darrell Peckfish. I caught that one, like, you know. So these kids would stone their heads with like. But yeah, then, you know, it's only a short roll back over, and then I was back over on the manor, like, you know, and I was buzzing for it again, like, you know, because there is some good fishing to be had out there if you don't mind what comes along, like, you know. But yeah, man, that, like, literally Lee and Sean had come up, and they were doing some floater fishing on Ardwick and stuff. And I walked over onto the manor, mate. It's packed. Every swim on the lake's full. And I've walked into the swim in one of the new swims. There's two of them, and they call them the new swims, whereas where the old arena used to be, like back in the day. And literally, all these fish are showing in front of the swim, right? And I'm looking around thinking, this swim's obviously roped off or something. Do you know what I mean? Because the lake's packed. And I said to this guy fishing next door, I said, mate, is this swim shut or something? And he's like, no, mate. He went, some bloke had just like done a couple of days in there, and he's just left. And I was thinking, Jesus Christ, there's so many in front of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I was like, I've run and got a bucket, mate, put the stuff in there. Take two like singles out to these fish that are showing, and I had one straight away, mate, like a 29 pound fully scaled. It was a real nice one. Anyway, mate, I'm like literally, we've done the pictures of that 29 and everything. Tied on another bait. I was using the nuclear pop-ups that I talked about in the second one, like the sooty black pepper and the caperic acid ones. And mate, I'm lining up to where these fish are showing, and they're showing like 60 yards out probably. And I'm lining up to where these fish are showing, and I've got the rod behind the back, like, you know, I'm just about to swing it out, and this massive mirror has come out about 15 yards out, right? And literally, mate, I just like changed the action of the cast and just like flicked it onto where he was, like, you know? And mate, honestly, I always fish slack lines because I was fishing choddies and everything, like. And I've put the rod on the buzzer, mate, and I'm slackening the line off and watching it sink, but it's picking back up again. And I was slackening it off, and it's coming up tight again. And I'm thinking, I think there's one on the end, mate. Go right down, but into it. There's a 41 pound mirror.
Wow.
like that fast, like, you know. And
Wow.
it literally, my line didn't sink me. It was that fast. And that session was brilliant, like, you know. And I had like, I think I had 7 in the end or something like that. But I can remember that 41. It was a big old simmer, like they called it a football fish. But I called Lee and Sean from the other lake, and they come over, and we're weighing it, and it's one of them, mate, you're just laughing. Like, you can only laugh in those situations, you know what I mean? You're all buzzing anyway. But it's like, you know, like, we fish so hard for certain fish, don't we, and stuff like that, you know, like, and so much time and money and effort and everything. And yeah, there it was, mate. The pop-up probably just settled on the bottom. It was in his gob, like, you know. And yeah, no, we had that one. And then, so yeah, it was great. Like, those sort of times are the best when your mates are there and all the rest of it. But so yeah, like going on that year, mate, I was just lost, like, you know. And I've been sidetracked a little bit here. But so what I thought was, coming up to winter, I'm gonna have a good go on hunt for the snake during the winter months, like, you know. And I just thought, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. And I had another go and stuff and whatnot over the winter. It never really happened. But in recent years, like I said, like that fish has just got bigger and bigger. It's for a kiddie that I know, actually, a guy called Andrew Fryer. He caught it at like 37 and a half or something. And I look at it, and like, not only was it a really, really nice carp, it was under my skin, like, you know, like that one, like, you know, because it was one of the known big ones that was growing. And he wasn't a frequent visitor to the bank or anything like that. But I just thought, right, I'm going to have to go for it this winter. In my bait shed, mate, I had a bait. Like, at first, I got my ticket and went and walked at the lake, and this lake in question. So I'm going back to it a bit. It was 5 acres, and it was very, very narrow through the middle, and there was a bowl at one end, and like up the top there, it was very, very thin. And what would happen is, mate, anglers would fish around like the middle area in the day, and they all move to this bowl area in the evening, and they're all chucking to the same spot and everything, mate, because you had the chance of a bite. The gate used to lock at like 7 o'clock at night, and it used to open at 7 in the morning, and it was on an electrical lock. So you were racing against time on there and everything anyway. But I really wanted. I thought, if I'm going to target like one, I don't think that's the way. Like, you know, I just think any lake, like, if everyone's using the same bait, you're an edge is using something totally different, or angling totally different to how everyone else is. I don't want to go on a lake and go, why are you catching my mirror, mate? Is on single up baits casting that ball, because my chance is the same as everyone else's. Then if I do that, you know what I mean? What I'm going to do is I'm gonna maybe use lots of bait in the margins or something. You know, like why would you, like, you know, we've you know, in life. Like, you know, we educate animals and pets and stuff, don't we? And whereas, you know, I just don't want to slot in and do what they're accustomed to and hope to get a better result than anyone else. Like, so what I've done, mate, I've gone around the lake that day, and you know, the sun always comes up, and the West Bank just got the sun all the time, and especially for the winter months. And there was this snag tree opposite, and lo and behold, mate, I've got a copy of that Drop Me a Line by Dick Walker. I've got some prints of it. And I was looking at the lake map he drew of it last night, and the spot I chose actually, he's got written on his lake map, big tree in lake. It says that's all it says on there, like yeah. And but anyway, there must have been like a big route or something in there, like But anyway, I'm walking around the lake this day, mate, and is November now. It's mid-November, and I'm looking across at this snag bush that gets the sun all day in the winter, and with that, I can see this branch like is pulling down towards the water, and I'm thinking, oh god, like I know straight away what that is. Someone's cracked off, and the lead's gone into the water or something. And the fish has picked it up, and now it's tethered. Now I like rang the bailiffs and stuff like that, and they said, yeah, all right, put a life jacket on and go out and stuff. So I've gone and got the rowboat, and I chucked my landing net pole in the boat with me, like, and I've rowed out to it, and I've gone over it, mate, and I've got my landing net pole, twisted the line around the branch because it was too tight, like able to cut my hands and stuff. Twisted it around my landing net pole and snapped it off, right. And anyway, I couldn't get that fish unhooked or anything, so it's just gone, like the line's gone through my hands and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, mate, while I'm under this tree, I stuck my landing net pole in the water and I couldn't even touch the bottom, and I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, I only thought it was about like 3, 4.5 foot, 4 foot through this middle, but it was deep, mate. It was proper deep. And then I put my arm in, I could eventually touch it, and it's a stony, it was perfect. And it's under these snags, and the snags are getting the sun. And also, I thought, if that fish had been tethered, maybe, and it's gone in there because he's with his mates and he just wants to be safe, there's probably
Yeah.
a few more there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, so I've gone in, mate, and I had about 30 kilos of bait in my shed. I had like a sack of pigeon conditioner. I always got about 40 tins of corn in boxes and stuff, load of bait in the freezer. I just got the whole lot, mate. I just loaded my car up with the whole lot, went out there and just put 30 kilos of bait straight in on this spot.
Yeah.
And mind you, it's winter and everyone's fishing single up baits, right? Everyone. And I just put the lot in, right? And I just thought, right, because I just think, again, I want to do something that's the complete opposite. And this lake's only doing a couple of bites a week, mine. It's a day ticket lake, so it's days only. So in the winter, mate, it's lucky to do 2, 3 bites a week, And I put it in, mate, and it's like, because I also think, again, going back to like talking about bait earlier, there's a lot to be said for baiting strategies, and whether that's widespread baiting or spot fishing and that with a spawn or whatever. But there's that bird table effect, and this is another thing, and it's like. You could go and buy some seeds today from like Niger seeds or something like that from Pets at Home and stick them on a bird table. And the right bird that's accustomed from is going to be out there this afternoon on it. And you haven't
Yeah.
seen one all spring. Or go and get some robin feed and he's going to be there. And they're wild animals that want nothing to do with us in any sort of way of association. But for food, they'll come.
Yeah.
And and with carp, mate, they just need to eat, don't they? And that's their main priority. And getting their end away once or twice a year if it's on that. But mate, I just thought I'll bring it all to the table. So I put all this seed in, all this corn, all this broiling and everything. And I thought I'll give it 3 days. No one fished this area, mate. And also, like I said, I beared in mind that they spent a lot of time at the top and in the middle, and in the bowl they would roll in the evenings. So I thought no matter what, they're going to cross that spot,
Yeah.
whether they're traveling back in the morning or in the evening. And for me, mate, I couldn't believe the depth of it, the safety, the snags, and the sun. So I could only fish like morning times and stuff, I could either fish from 7 in the morning until midday, or I could get there on the evening and maybe fish from like 5 o'clock until 7 when the gate locked. So it might, that's one of the reasons I went in so hard with debating everything, because I'm thinking I've got like 4 hours in the morning or 2 hours in the evening, compared to people that are there 4 days a week and stuff, So mate, my first day I've gone out there and put the rods out, mate, and this bush, like it overhung the water so much that like you had to be brave enough almost when you cast to not see the lead land. It was like that sounds mad, but you almost had to hit the bank, the opposite bank under these branches. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it took it not, and that's another thing. I knew that other people wouldn't probably fish that spot because the cast was too difficult, because it was like in between two swims. So you had to, and it was so overhanging, mate. It was almost like a little cave. And you just had to hit it right. And I know everyone wraps up in stuff now, and like I say, some of my mates listening to this now will be laughing. But even if you wrapped up, mate, it don't matter, does it? Like if you're stood up straight or you're slightly bent or the wind's a little bit different, your legs are at that tree, like whether you're wrapped or not. So you
Yeah.
almost have to have the balls to cast and not worry about it being clipped and stuff. And mate, I was like a darts player, like by the end of that winter, like my mates used to laugh about it because I used to be able to get these leads under there, mate. And but anyway, like my first day, mate, I sat there. I've got the rods out and stuff like that, and I'm buzzing, like But I'm thinking also because you hear nothing's been out, you're thinking maybe I ever done it with the bait or whatever. With that, mate, by mid morning, it's going off. Like I've had a tea, it was like a small one, like an eye double or whatever. But I thought, well, if he's already there eating, like some of the better ones might be. And anyway, later that day, mate, I had a 30 pound lever, a real nice one, and it was right at the end of the day, like the gate's about to lock, and the gate locks at like 7, and it's like, I don't know, 20 to 7 now, and I've got this big one on the bank, and I quickly weigh it and stuff, and this young kid's come up, bless him, and he's like, help me with the photos and everything, and I'll send you the pictures, mate, but I don't know what he'd done. I'm not a camera expert, I don't really know nothing about him, but he had messed around, I don't know what he'd done, but he must have pressed them up with the ISO settings, but it almost feels like the background's like sharp as hell, and I'm underexposed a little bit, but you can see the fish and everything anyway. But yeah, a mega one, like a really, really nice, like 30 pound lever. Anyway, I've again, and mind you, I'm not fishing no bait when I'm fishing there. I had done the damage with the bait. So when I'm going back, mate, I was fishing tiny little snowman up baits, just singles. I've gone back the next day, mate. I remember that old fish that Lee had caught from the match league years prior when we were kids. I'm there the next day, mate, and it's a morning session. I just wanted to be there, So I had stuff to do in the afternoon, and I'm there, mate. I've got the rods out, and again, this late, like if you get a bite from it, mate, it's normally in the evening. That's your only chance. People will even turn up midday because mornings are wasted. But that was the time I had to maximise. And I'm there, man. I've had this bite. I'm playing this fish from under this snag, I'd have to play him all the same way, mate. Straight away, put the rod under the water and just give him loads of side strain, get him away from the snag, sort of thing. And lo and behold, mate, he's gone in the net, and I thought, God, that's a big one, and I could tell it was a 30 pounder straight away, mate. And I got my sling ready and everything, got it out, weighed it, it was 30 pound 6 it was, and I'm looking at it thinking, like when you see someone in the supermarket, you think, I've seen you before somewhere, or I know that
Yeah.
person, and I'm thinking, that's part of stocking, that's the 19 pounder from the match league all them years ago. How he got in the main league, mate, I don't know. So but he was here today in my net, and I was happy as ever to see him again. He's 30 pound 6, and that was like the start of it, then, mate, and it just got better from then. He was the first 30 pounder, and I can remember bringing Barts that day and sending him the pictures and everything, and we were laughing about it, and it's mental to think, like I say, all them years ago, and I know people who don't know nothing about carp fishing, they don't realise like the lengths of time these fish live and stuff. But yeah, to see that one in a different lake, at a much bigger weight, all those years later, it was brilliant, and yeah, so it was great, and it just started from there, mate. And I was going out. Honestly, I was doing like 2-3 hours in the morning. I was catching like 5 or 6. It
Wow.
was ridiculous, But what I also bear in mind, mate, was that um, the effectiveness from this massive bit of bait I'd put in was going to be short lived. I can't stay there forever, So I was fishing as many sessions as I could, I was fishing either, like I said, mornings or afternoons. But in the end, what it was, I started at end of November, and I thought I'm going to give it to Christmas,
Yeah.
right? And in the time, mate, from the end of November until Christmas, I fished 5 sessions, and I ended up landing 26 fish. I landed 26 fish, and I might have lost one. And in those fish, I had 6. I think I had 6 30s, of the 18 in there, and but to talk about the 18 a bit, in the time, like I said, since I'd really fished the lake heavily all those years ago, these new ones had come along, and like I said, I'll be fishing there, and you catch one, and someone will say, "Oh, that's Gorgeous George," or "That's like Fred," or something. I had to re-educate myself with the place. But the new ones, mate, of all the new ones there was another one that in there that went 40 pound called the Italian. He was in amongst them. Gorgeous George was at upper 20, and it was brilliant, mate, because I was catching them all the ones I wanted. They were all visiting me, and all the best ones as well. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the fair brass fish, like, all those sort of things. And yeah, mate, lo and behold, like just coming up to Christmas, it was my mate's old mate from the ropes pit and stuff. He's walking around and he sat with me and stuff, and we're chatting about it. And he's like, he's asking me why I was on there and stuff. And I sort of said, oh, this snake had got under my skin a little bit, and I really wanted to catch it and everything. And I didn't really have nowhere to go, and also I went out there just flitting, mate. I was smashing it, I was really, really getting, no one's like Terry Wilkinson, that guy I spoke about earlier. I seen him once smash it in the winter when I was a kid, and he was fishing right in short. But this was like a different level. Do you know what I mean? We're big, and so yeah, I was smashing it, mate. And Mark sat with me, and then another mate of mine from Neighbour just walked round, and it was good. Like I hadn't seen both of them for ages, and we're sat there, and Stu's chatting away, and he said to me, "Oh, I caught that snake. I caught it like 32 years ago or whatever like that, mate. And I've had a drop back like on my right hand rod, like the line's been cut almost, like just dropped to the deck." And I'm right now, mate, like sort of getting him out the snag, but he was a bit more reluctant to get out of his bed, he wanted to stay in there, and I'm pumping him back, mate, pumping him back, and old eagle-eye Mark can see a 50 or a specimen that he's chasing from 20 acres away. He's down with the net, mate, and I'm walking back up the bath, and he's going, "Just hurry up, mate. It's only a double. I can see it." I'm thinking, I don't feel like one, you know what I mean? And this fish is swimming line. He's adamant it's only a double. And anyway, mate, lo and behold, he's gone in a net, and he's looked around at me, and he's gone, "Oh my god, it's a snake!" And
Wow.
so his fish estimations were a little bit out, mate. And literally, we were talking about that fish at the time of the take, and it was the one I was there for. And yeah, it was amazing, mate. And yeah, by the time we had some other people come around and stuff, and I'd sacked it, we weighed it and everything. It was getting dark, so the pictures are like they're flash photos, but they come out mega, mate. They come out really, really well. And it's like I said, going back to the beginning of the story about what's special to you. Like just because something's special to someone else doesn't mean. And I've caught a lot of big carp, and people would think, "Oh, why was that one so meaningful to you from a local lake?" It's not even a 40 pounder; it's just a big 30. But to me, it was special, mate. It was as special as any of the others I've ever caught.
Yeah,
And because when you set your sights on one, mate, whether that's buying a Fiesta or a Ferrari, that's when you get it, it's as meaningful to you as ever, isn't it? And that one, mate, it was probably the best winter's fishing I've ever had. Not just in numbers, because I've fished Horseshoe over the years, and I've had some mega times on there, but it was like there was a new breed of big uns in there, and I managed to get probably all of them, if I'm honest. Added to the ones I'd caught in the past, and the one I really, really wanted. And like I said, that lake was special to me. It was special, and it was good to have. Not only see it as some noddy lake that you go to in the winter and catch 20s. It was now a big carp menu.
yeah,
There's 40 pounders in there. And so it was it was so good that because what had happened after Christmas, we had some. What I wanted to even tell this story. What happened after Christmas was that we had a spell of really cold weather, and the lake froze over. And then we had some extremely warm weather instantly after. And what apparently it does, I can't remember the name of the parasite now, but there's a parasite that's in most lakes. But when you get an extreme weather change, it triples almost, right? And everything's dead. That lake's gone now. All that history, all those fish, all those ones I've watched grown over the years, and shared stories and walked that bank and spent thousands of hours there, whether that's visiting friends or whatever. And I wouldn't be a carp angler today if it wasn't for that lake, because like I said, I spent so much time there, and it was what got me into specimen hunting and chasing them sort of ones. But it's gone, mate, and it's sad, maybe hopefully it'll bounce back for future generations, maybe, but it's going to take 20 years, and it's it feels like a relationship ending or something, or getting redundant or whatever. But yeah, I sort of owed so much to, because your life, carp fishing, it takes over, doesn't it? Relationships fail because of it and everything. But I wouldn't be where I am today, or doing what I do, or have the love for it, without that place. So here, and I've been checking daily, and they're pulling more and more out daily, and they're all gone. They're all gone. It's sad, and I just think not just thinking about myself, I think about other anglers, because yeah, I wouldn't be as mad for it as I am today if it weren't for my time on there, So, and I honestly don't think, mate, and I really do hope that in like 20 years' time I could walk around that lake and see people catching this stuff. But I honestly don't think for me I would ever cast a longback in there again. It's like a big, big chapter in my carp fishing, and there's a lot of people, like I say, who probably listen to this who probably could say the same thing. We all come from them roots, and there's some very good anglers that were on that lake. Yeah, and it's a sad, mate, to think when I started there, it was like there was all those old originals that, like I say, lucky enough, I caught them back in those days. And then this new breed that come through that, it produced, there was 2 40-pounders in there and stuff. And, like I said, that snake, and I had some great fishing on there and stuff. And to think I've seen that, that circle of life, if you like, it's come round twice. I don't think I'll ever see it. I don't think I'll see it again on that venue. But and not to touch back on that, after that campaign was finished after Christmas and stuff like that, I thought I was done on there. And my uncle, like I say, the one that gave me that Redmere book I mentioned at the start, the reason I said that, I got that mentality of fishing for big ones and stuff. He died. He died of cancer. And I went out in January to do a session, and I fished in the swim. The swim was actually called Warren's, and the swim was the first swim I ever fished on as a kid on that lake, like with him. And before all these stories and stuff, and I was sat there and I was thinking, Jesus Christ, it's like the last time I ever seen him even was when I fished that day with him all them years ago. And I was like, here at Lumberyard, I'm in the same swim. He's gone, And I thought, if I catch one today, mate, it's for him,
Yeah.
And at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, mate, my left hand rod's filled up and I've had a 31-pounder. So yeah, that one, I don't know where, I don't know about afterlife and ghosts and spirits, but if he's listening, mate, that one's for you, And then, like I said, and then the stock's all gone, so life's full of ups and downs, isn't it? But that's the magic of carp fishing, mate, isn't it? It is, and as well, I can't get enough of it today, I just can't. And yeah, it's like I say, we come and go, fish come and go, sadly. But like I said to you originally, fishing for that snake and stuff, you just didn't realize what's around the corner, it was a race. It was a race against time in itself, and that's what I mean when we're in pursuit of these things or careers or whatever. My advice is just go and do it. Go and do it. Because time waits for no one. And we're all guilty of just thinking we've all got time and we haven't.
Yeah.
And just doing those podcasts with you before before last year, mate, and being in contact with a lot of people again. I've had some more elf news, which is worse probably than what I even knew. And I don't want to really go into that too much, but I ain't waiting no more, and I'm as mad for it as ever now. I'm as mad for it as ever. And as you'll know, mate, from our personal conversations and stuff, I'm back out on the bike again now. And I'm probably as mad for it as I've ever been, and because now you never know what tomorrow's not promised, is it? It's cliche to say it, but it's not. And yeah, I'm sick of worrying about health and whatnot. And I know, mate, all through my life, whether relationships ended or I've had tough times or whatever, carp fishing's always been there for me. And is and any doctor's advice if people are listening to this who suffer with depression or addiction or whatever health problems or whatever, just get outside, talk to people, get fresh air, do something you love, and I said this to you, I think, Steve, the first day we ever spoke last year when I was on that wharf. Whatever gives me the biggest buzz nowadays is getting most of my time. And that's carp fishing, and I'm as mad for it now as I have ever been. I'm actually sorting my stuff out right now to go for another trip, I've got another one that's got under my skin a little bit, and I it took a little while to find out where he lived and stuff. And I've got a ticket, and I can't wait, mate. I cannot wait. I just cannot wait. And but like I said, this time, mate, it's going to be a little bit different because we're going on a safari for this one,
Yeah. And that's the mega thing about it, mate. And like you say, I can't wait to hear the next story, the next journey. And like you said, I know you didn't want to touch on your health condition, mate. And I really hope things are going to turn out for the best for you, you know, because you're a top guy, and you know, I can only respect. And like you said earlier in the podcast, when you said about people telling you stories and you get drawn in, mate, honestly, I could listen to you talk about your journey forever. And it's been just to be here on a podcast with you and you giving me your time. It's just a privilege for me. So, you know,
Yeah, no worries, man.
and that's top respect to you because you are just amazing. And like you said, you dabbled with the idea of books or and stuff like. Honestly, mate, I'll be the first in the line to shake your hand, and I want you to sign my book. And it's amazing. So I hope your health condition. I know you didn't really want to chat about it, but I hope it can only turn out the best possible way for you.
I appreciate that, mate. I appreciate that. But yeah, that's it, mate. I just think, we're just, it's just about like, you just got to accept it. Like, you've got to take responsibility for it, haven't you? And like I said, just reciting those stories to you like last year and stuff. I was in like a bad place. I was in a dark place. I was worried about my own well-being. Like, it's that bad. And yeah, now I like my 90% of my thinking is like this next big fish I'm chasing. I'm buzzing, like yeah, I'm back for hospital appointments and stuff like that all the time. But like I said, we never know when the clock ends, do we? Like, and the emphasis of this whole podcast is about that, I guess. But I know I'm gonna do what makes me the happiest, like, for that time. And I'm just gonna, yeah, who knows? Hopefully we'll be here in 20 years time telling some more stories, mate.
Oh well, like I say, mate, I'm always rooting for you.
Yeah, right, I appreciate that, mate. I appreciate it.
Always rooting for you, mate. And it's like I say, part three's been epic. Part one, part two, part three, and listen, mate. The next chapter of your life, I can imagine it. Going hopefully the way it's always gone, epic again. This next journey of the safari park is
yeah, we'll see, my man. We'll see.
exactly.
But yeah, we'll be. Let's hope so. Let's hope we can come back and tell the story of that one because it's already started to unfold, And I just can't wait to get back there again. I cannot wait to get back.
I'm already buzzing for it, mate. To just,
we'll see, mate. We'll see.
Well, thanks again for being on the Lonely Carper podcast.
No worries, my man. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, mate.
Take care, mate. Take care. Yeah.